Hi, good morning everyone. My name is EZRI and for today's video, we'll be talking about the psychology of public speaking. So there are a lot of webinars and there are a lot of trainings and seminars or workshops regarding the side of public speaking focused on grammar, on how to improve the content of your speech, or to whatever type of public speaking you will be engaging. But for today's video, we will try to discuss what are the psychology principles behind public speaking. So let's start. So for today's objective, we have first to know the psychology principles behind public speaking, and number two, to understand how to apply these psychology principles, and lastly, to be able to apply these principles through workshop. Question number one, what do you think is public speaking? So there are a lot of definition out there that public speaking is when there is a platform for a speaker, and there is an audience, and there is a certain subject or topic to be discussed, and the certain speaker will convey his or her message to the audience. So that is a typical definition of public speaking. But for today's definition, according to our source, public speaking, we shall say, is the art of transmitting through the medium of the spoken word and its corresponding action the thoughts, feelings, and desires of the speaker to the minds and hearts of the listeners who are assembled to hear him. So that is according to Charles S. Costello from Loyola University, Chicago. So his master's thesis is our point of reference for today's training or seminar workshop. So we will try to cut this definition because there are a lot of phrases in here and there are a lot of things that we need to discuss in here. So according to him, public speaking, we shall say, is the art of transmitting through the medium of the spoken word and its corresponding action the thoughts, feelings, and desires. So first, public speaking is the medium of transferring or transmitting the message from the speaker to the audience through the spoken word, through oral communication, and corresponding action, the thoughts, the feelings, and the desires of the speakers to the minds of the listeners. So that is public speaking according to our official or point of reference for today. So that is Mr. Charles S. Costello. So I have photos in here, and let us try to differentiate these three speakers, their public speaking types, and how they differ in terms of public speaking. So first we have here, I know we are all familiar with this, former President Barack Obama. Former President Barack Obama is the former President of the United States before former President Donald Trump, because the current President of the United States is President Joe Biden. So the speaking or the public speaking type of Barack Obama. So what do you think is the public speaking, or how does Barack Obama conveys his message to his audience, to his people, to his countrymen? So that is one question. Another thing, what are the nuances or what are the things that Barack Obama used to do or typically do whenever he will have his message or he will have a speech relating to people, and how does he handle his audiences? So that is for you to ask, or that is for us to answer this afternoon or this morning perhaps. So second question or second photo we have in here, former President Donald Trump. So there are a lot of differences. Personally, there are a lot of differences that I know between former President Barack Obama and former President Donald Trump. For example, number one, first of all, similarity is that they connect to people, but they are both effective public speakers because they interact and they connect to people. But number two, when it comes to handling hecklers, there are a lot of hecklers, especially if you're the President of the United States and you like to have a speech. Hecklers will always be around, so there are a lot of differences when it comes to handling hecklers between the former President Barack Obama and former President Donald Trump. And also we have in here President Rodrigo Roa Duterte. So he is the current President of the Philippines, elected last 2016, and of course there are also a lot of nuances this type of president is using when it comes to public speaking. But perhaps he is an effective public speaker because he has won the elections over the other candidates. So those are the three leaders we have, or we shall say the three leaders that we can mostly see in the television giving public speeches and messages to people, so stuff like that. So they are effective leaders. So moving forward, so I have chosen them as a reference when it comes to public speaking because they are the most famous, or the famous people when it comes to public speaking. And now let us try to move forward. So according to our source for this video, for this topic, Charles Costello from the Loyola University, Chicago, there are three elements of public speaking. First, number one is the audience, number two, speaker, and number three, we have the subject. Now, to define the audience, according to him, a broader view of human nature can be developed from the study of the audience. From the many human faces before him, the speaker learns to read their sign of approval or disapproval to what he is saying. He is able to observe how many react to good or evil. To continue, he learns to know better how he must deal with human nature in order that what he says will be accepted. Truly, these understandings, which comes only through the personal contact and watchfulness of the speaker over his audience, is educational. So this is somehow an exposition or a result or a finding of this study according to our source for today. So according to him, in studying, if we will try to study the nature of the audience, there are a lot of things we will be discovering for us to help improve the quality of the message we are trying to convey to our audience. So if we will be a public speaker, it is a must that we have to study the audience, the type of audience we will have in order to have an effective speech or effective message to them. So that is according to, this is an exposition to this definition according to the topic. So next is, from the many human faces before him, the speaker learns to read their sign of approval or disapproval to what he is saying. So as an effective speaker, we have to know, or we have to learn on how to read the faces or the expressions of our audience. If our audience is still with us, is still listening to us, is disapproving or approving to our message. So as a good speaker, we have to be aware of that. And also, he is able to observe how many reacts to good or evil. So there are instances that we really have to weigh what audience we have in this, how many of our audience are for us or against our message. And then this process is somehow educational. So this process involves studying your audience. So this process involves researching what type of audience you will have in that specific what do you call this, speech, or that specific event where you will give your speech. Next element of public speaking is we have the speaker. So by definition, according to Charles Costello, the speaker, if he is to be successful, must develop all his faculties of expression. Before he can express himself clearly to his audience, he must vividly see and clearly the images of his own mind. His intellect must be made keen, his will strong, his imagination colorful, and his memory resourceful. Of course, there are a lot of emphasis in these definitions, but what I would like to say to you is that a speaker must be the master of his topic, a master of expressions. So a master of what he or she is trying to convey. If you are not knowledgeable, or if you have a little bit of awareness or understanding of what you are talking, there will be a possibility that you will not convey your message effectively. So that is the emphasis of this definition. Another thing, such development is truly a development of the higher faculties, the development constantly sought after in education. So you will not be able to deliver an effective speech without doing research, without giving emphasis to what you are trying to convey to your audience. If you are not studying your audience, so that is the type of speaker we must have to be, or to have an effective speech. Now, let us try to define the subject, the third element. The speaker's knowledge of the subject must be thorough. To speak convincingly to his audience, the public speaker is obliged to be the master of his subject. So my emphasis earlier, this demands that he know the various ways and means for the sources of materials, and likewise the possible orders for his composition. So that is what I am trying to convey to you earlier, that in order to deliver a good subject, or in order to deliver a good speech or a good content in a public speech, you must be a master of your topic. You need to be aware and you need to be knowledgeable of all the details, the complexity of your topic, because mostly public speaking involves question and answer portions. If you will not be able to give a thorough answer to what they are asking from you, then it will be a disaster, because you are representing the message you want to convey to them without the full knowledge, and with only fragmented knowledge of what you are trying to convey, then it will become a disaster. So you really have to study what you are trying to convey. So now let's try to move forward to the 5 psychological secrets in public speaking. So this is the very important things that we need to consider, psychological things that we need to consider when we are trying to do public speaking. So number 1, we follow leaders. According to our source, when you are the presenter, you're given authority. The audience wants and expects you to lead them, of course. So that is the first of the psychological secret behind public speaking. Once you are standing in front of them, authority is given to you. The authority to speak to them, the authority to lead them, and the authority to give them a meaningful and helpful information is what you will gain when you will become a public speaker. So you must own it. You're a leader. When you try to speak in front of a lot of people, you must put in your head that you are a leader, and that what you will say is an important matter that your audience will really listen to. So that is number one. Continuing, what you do next is vital so you don't lose their allegiance. Become a leader from the start and own it. Stanley Milgram's experiment, controversial in the early 1960s, showed it's very hard for most of us to resist authority. We're simply wired to follow leaders. So based on Stanley Milgram's experiment, so it's somehow a study of obedience or authority. And the findings of the study is that people or us are very hard to resist authority. So that is proven in this type of study. So what does it means? When we stand in front of a lot of audience trying to convey a message through a public speech, we are given authority. And if we are given authority, we must use that authority effectively. And we must be careful what we are going to do next to maintain that authority, sense of authority within our audience. So next, number two, we instantly we instantly read people. So that is number two. Audience members size you up before you even speak, which makes it essential to carefully design your opening. So as what I have experienced or encountered a lot of a public speaking engagement before, a good introduction is a must. You have to prepare facts, truth, intriguing information that will get the attention of your audience, because that is the most important thing. Making an impression to people, making an impression to your audience. Once you get the attention of your audience at the start of your speech, you will be able to maintain that through the rest of your speech. A crafted introduction and confident body language inspire people to follow your lead throughout the presentation. So the past 15 years of psychological study shows people make unconscious decisions about others in 1 second or less. So it's not just about your spoken word or your message, but it's all about body language as well. If you will stand in front of your audience like this, with your back, with a turtle back, then and you are not standing up straight, and then it will become a disaster for you. So it is better to stand straight and use your hand gestures effectively. So those are the important things, body language, that you need to be aware of. So that's number two, we instantly read people. Number three, we assign meaning to body movement. What does that mean? Knowing how to stand, move, gesture, and deal with nervousness conveys leadership, passion, and openness. So that is the importance of hand gestures or body language. Knowing what type of gestures you will use will give you an edge to make your people come, to make your people relax, to make your audience relax, and to open their hearts and minds to you. Standing straight, head upright, breathe deeply, and with your talking pacing very slow, or not very slow, but just the right pacing that you need in order for your audience not to be bored, or yes, to be bored in your speech. And then intentional practice leads to confidence, of course. Practice makes better. It does not mean that you will always have your practice, it will make you perfect, but it will always make you better. Just stand in front of the mirror, try to speak to yourself, or try to imagine that you are speaking in front of a large audience, and then try to critique yourself, try to evaluate yourself. So that is an important character that an effective public speaker must have. Next is a 2009 study conducted by Pablo Brinol revealed that by simply taking a posture of confidence, people feel more confident. In her 2011 book, The Silent Language of Leaders, Carol Kinsey Goman explains how physical gestures help us be effective leaders. So as you can see, this book often associate a good and effective speaker with an effective leader, because an effective speaker is an effective leader. Because if you are trying to convey a message, especially a revolutionary message or transformational message, and if you get your audience follow what you are trying to say or what you're trying to convey or what you want them to do, then you are an effective leader. So that is how this means. We assign meaning to body movement. Number 4, we pay attention to vocal tone. So also, our voice matters. So there are a lot of differences when we speak very fast with a very high pitch, and when we speak very low with a very low voice, and just the perfect timing of pacing. So there are differences between those. So let us try to read. The way you say a phrase means as much or more as the words themselves. Great speakers have long utilized this secret to engage audiences through volume, modulation, articulation, and well-placed pauses. MIT professor Alex Pentland summarized his study of nonverbal communication in his 2008 book, Honest Signals, and helped create a device called the social meter that monitors and predicts a person's communication effectiveness. So nonverbal communication, or simply the hand gesture, simply by waving your hands, saying hello to people, swaying your head, having an eye-to-eye contact with them, that is also a gist. That is also an ace when you're trying to have when you are doing public speaking. And lastly, we imitate emotions. This is very important psychological tip. Two highly contagious emotions are passions and nervousness, which can be reflected almost all of the time public speakers doing their speeches. If you are too nervous, then your audience will feel that nervousness. And if you are very zealous or you are full of passion of whatever message you're trying to convey to them, then they will feel what you are trying to say. And passion and nervousness are the most two contagious emotions. It means that if you have a high amount of one of those emotions, then it will greatly affect your speech and your audience. So those feelings will be conveyed through your voice and body language. Nervousness. So it will also affect, or it can also be reflected with your body language and with your pacing. And also, neuroscientist V.S. Ramachandran's 2012 book, The Telltale Brain, details the significance of these neurons and how they work. So, mirror neurons. So, mirror neurons in our brain allow us to literally experience what others experience. So, we really have that kind of neurons that mirror experiences from other people, mirror emotions and feelings from other people, and thus we try to imitate that. So those are the most important hacks that we need to be aware of, psychological tips that we need to be aware of for us to be an effective public speaker. Number 1, we follow leaders. Number 2, we instantly read people. Number 3, we assign meaning to body movement. Number 4, we pay attention to vocal tone. And number 5, we imitate emotions. So those are the important things that we need to be aware of for us to have an effective speech when doing public speaking. So if you have further questions, please don't hesitate to ask me or comment down below so that we will be able to address that. Thank you so much for listening and for watching this video, and goodbye.